So final section of the Notre Dame Texas A&M show is going to be predictions. We have talked about the game all week, and now we're going to have some fun making our predictions. So we're going to go into that first, guys. What we're going to do is we're going to kind of each of these guys is going to get their shot to make their prediction. They're going to kind of tell you how they think the game is going to play out. While they do that, we want to hear from you all. What are your score predictions for this game? So we're obviously going to pull some of those up and dive into those. We'll also have something on the message board where we get into this as well. So give me your score prediction, then I'm going to ask one follow-up of each of you after you get up your score. So give me the score, and then tell me how you think the game is going to play out, and then I'm going to have one follow-up question for each of you. Ryan, we'll go ahead and kick things started off with you.
Yeah, so for me, I see this game being a very competitive contest for the most part, but I do have a 28-17 final victory. And how I get to the 28-17 is I think that this game is going to be kind of one of those back and forth dogfights throughout probably 2.5 quarters. And I think that both teams are just going to kind of do the back and forth blow. I do think that Notre Dame could they're probably going to score first in this football game, and I think that would be a great indicator of what the final potentially could be. But I do think that they are going to be kind of a back and forth contest. But what I think the difference is going to be is in the fourth quarter, it's going to be 21-17, and then Notre Dame is going to rip off a huge play. And I don't know if that's going to be Riley Leonard. I don't know if that's going to be Jeremiah Love, but I'm predicting a big play in the fourth quarter that gives you an 11-point lead and lets your defensive line now get a little loose. Your cornerbacks get a little loose. And that's when I think that you're going to see the most harassment of Connor Wegman in this passing attack is going to be in the fourth quarter when you've established an 11-point lead. Texas A&M now has to spread it out. They got to throw the football. They're not going to be a run-centric oriented team. 28-17 final for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
Okay, Ryan, here's my follow-up for you. At the end of the game, you're in the locker room. You're celebrating. Notre Dame's got a 28-17 win. Mm-hmm. Who gets your game ball?
I mean, I think it's going to be a collective of the defensive line is going to end up getting the game ball. I mean, if I had to throw one just for like the big play, I would say Riley Leonard offensively is the guy that gets the game ball for making a big play when they needed it most. I do kind of trend towards that fourth quarter big play that I keep talking about. It's probably going to be in the hands of Riley Leonard, whether that is as a runner or making a big play in the passing game. So I'll say Riley Leonard, but I do think it's an assist to the defensive line because I wouldn't be shocked if at the end of the football game, we're talking 5-ish sacks on Connor Wegman and a lot of harassment, a lot of that happening in the fourth quarter when Texas A&M has to kind of open things up and has to try to play a little bit of catch up. So I'll say Riley Leonard is the quote unquote MVP of the football game, but the defensive line gets a big pat on the back for the effort they have.
So you're saying Marcus Freeman might hand that game ball to Riley Leonard, but in the eyes of Ryan Roberts, that game's going to come down to the Notre Dame defensive line dominating.
Yeah, well, I mean, Riley's not going to get it to the defensive line, right? He's going to give it to like Knapp probably or one of his offensive linemen. But yeah, I will give I'll be in the post-game show talking about how I think the Notre Dame defensive line closed this game out and they were the difference at the biggest moments.
Love it. Love it. So Ryan, that's Ryan's prediction, 28-17. Let's go next to you, Trevor. What is your score prediction for the game, and how do you see this game playing out?
Absolutely. So my score prediction for the game, I have Notre Dame winning 34-17. Now, I don't know if it's because there's love in the air for me this weekend or if it's because I watched the Here Come the Irish documentary this morning, but I am juiced up, okay? One thing that you guys will get to learn about me is I love to draw analogies and I love to make references to past years, past teams. And I know it came at a different time of year, but this game has a 2012 Oklahoma feel to it for me specifically. Heard nothing in 2012 except for Bob Stoops and the Oklahoma team and how they're bigger and they're faster and they're stronger. If you guys remember in 2012, it was a 10-6 game at halftime. It was a stalemate in the third quarter. And then Notre Dame won 20-7 in the fourth quarter alone. I think we pull away late. I think it is very much a 17-14 type game at halftime. I think the first half is going to be full of big plays. And I think Notre Dame's offense outscores Texas A&M 17-3. I think the defense digs in the second half. I think they start to show their star power and why they are considered one of the best teams in the nation. Offense is going to settle in. And I think Riley Leonard's going to have a big game for Notre Dame.
If I remember correctly, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't Sorry, Trevor, I did not get your score up. That's still Ryan's score. I want to see Trevor's score. There we go. Boom, right there. So 34-17. I believe Notre Dame was almost a touchdown underdog against Oklahoma back in 2012, weren't they? Even though they were a top 10 team, I think that was number 5 versus number 8. They had a loss already. Oklahoma had a loss already. And I think they were number 8. Notre Dame was number 5. So Notre Dame was the higher ranked team, and they were an underdog on the road. And Notre Dame ended up turning out all right for Notre Dame. So despite the angst from some fans about Notre Dame being an underdog in this game, this is why they still play the games, fellas, because just because you're the underdog doesn't mean you're going to lose that game. And I like you said, though, what the D-line played great. You forced turnovers. You got off to a pretty good start. Like all those things factored in. And what was the thing that sparked him at the end of the game? Notre Dame answers with a big play to Chris Brown after Oklahoma ties it up. And you both said they kind of wore him down late. I think you guys both nail it. I'm going to give my prediction here now, fellas. And I've been back and forth on this. I'll be honest with you. I think I even gave you a different score, Ryan. I think I gave you like 24-13. At one point, I was 31-13. Then I was 27-10. I've been all around the place because I often do my predictions on what I think should happen, not what I think will happen. And I ended up kind of settling on what I think will happen as opposed to what should happen. I'll say this. If all the keys that we talked about, fellas, come true and Notre Dame does all those things, this won't be an overly competitive game, in my opinion. I think Notre Dame has the better team. They have the more experienced team, the more veteran team. There's less turnover that these teams are that Notre Dame is dealing with, coaching-wise, culture-wise, roster-wise, all of that. This is a game that Notre Dame should win and win handily if it was just played on paper. But unfortunately, the game is not played on paper. This game is going to be played practically, and it is the opener. It is going to be played away from home. There is going to be noise. We saw the Duke game last year. Notre Dame actually moved the ball pretty well early against Duke last year. They just kept stupid false starts, kept killing drives. So you've got to avoid that kind of stuff. And I think those type of things are why this game is going to ultimately be a little bit closer than maybe it should be if we were just looking at the specific matchups and the specific key. So I have Notre Dame winning 24-16. Trevor, who gets your game ball? I don't think I asked you that. Who gets your game ball if Notre Dame wins the way that you have them winning?
I'm in the same boat as Ryan. I think it goes to Riley Leonard, the only offensive captain that the team has this year. I think there is going to be at some point in the game, whether it's to spark, call it a fourth quarter rally to really start stretching their legs. But Riley Leonard is going to have a Sports Center-esque top 10 type of play that gets the team going and puts the nail in the coffin.
I love it. I'm going to go a little outside the box because I don't want to just do what you guys did. You guys did great picks and you guys kind of gave the most likely answers, but I'm going to go outside the box a little bit. I think it's going to go to Jack Kaiser because I think at the end of the day, what we're going to see in this game is Jack Kaiser is going to have some sort of big game-changing play that's going to completely change the direction of the game. It's going to be something of forcing a turnover, recovering a ball, lots of tackles, lots of plays, and I think it's going to be something like that. That's going to be the ultimately determine the outcome of this football game. So, Trevor, I'm going to go with Jack Kaiser, but I think I'm with you guys. If they're going to win this game, then we're going to need to see something from Riley Leonard. There's no doubt about it. So that's where it's going to be. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, Trevor. How much are they going to be able to execute the keys to victory that we talked about? Can they start fast? Can they control the crowd? Can the offensive line hold its water? Can the defensive line dominate? Do they take advantage of their apparent advantages from a skill standpoint, all those type of things? Or is this going to look like what a lot of Notre Dame fans fear, which is, they don't play well in quote unquote these moments. And that's what it's going to be, because at the end of the day, we've done all the talking and now it's time to see what they can do. So it's going to be a fun one. So that was, and then of course, that's the second biggest news this weekend. Notre Dame, Texas A&M will be the second biggest news this weekend. Of course, the biggest news is by the time we get to our Tuesday show, you will be a married man. And so I'm going to welcome you to the club. Ryan's a part of the club. My next guest, Bill Bender's part of that club. And this weekend, you will be part of that club. So congratulations to you and your fiance. Tell her welcome to the Irish Breakdown family as well. And hopefully you are in a good mood on Sunday.
I promised her that no matter what, I would be in a good mood on Sunday. No promises on Saturday night.
So you can make it till you can. Hopefully you won't have to fake it till you make it on Sunday. So that'll be a good thing. So Trevor, anyway, congratulations, man.
Thank you.
And we'll talk to you here again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So next, that's going to wrap up the Irish Breakdown show. So we did our keys to victory. We did our score predictions. You guys can keep throwing in your predictions. And before we get to our next section, of course, hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit the notification bell, share this podcast, give us a 5-star review. We'd greatly appreciate that. And as always, sign up for the message board at boards.irishbreakdown.com.